She gave her last $20 to a stranger.
Thank you, child. This means everything.
3 days later, that stranger's grandson proposed.
Will you marry me?
She gave her last $20 to a stranger. 3 days later, that stranger's grandson proposed. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Zoe had been invisible for 8 months. Not literally. She showed up every morning at Lux and Stone, the most exclusive jewelry boutique in downtown Atlanta. She polished the cases, arranged the diamond displays, smiled at customers who looked right through her. But her manager, Tanya, had made one thing clear from week one. Zoe was not there to sell. She was there to run errands. Dry cleaning, coffee, vault cleaning, whatever Tanya didn't want to do herself. And every time Zoe managed to land a sale anyway, Tanya found a reason to flip the commission to one of the senior girls. Paperwork error, client reassignment, whatever excuse fit the day. The senior staff had a name for Zoe behind her back. The placeholder. She knew. She didn't quit. She needed rent. That Tuesday started like every other one. Slow, cold, and slightly humiliating. Zoe was rearranging a tray of diamond chokers when the front door opened. An old woman walked in. She moved carefully, the way people move when their joints hurt. Her coat was thin. Her sneakers were cracked at the toe. Her hair was tucked under a faded headscarf. She looked like she had taken 3 buses to get here and wasn't sure she had the right address. The senior girls exchanged glances. One of them, Brittany, stepped forward before the woman even reached the display cases. "Can I help you?" The words were polite. The tone was not. "I just want to look around," the old woman said softly. Tanya appeared from the back like she had been summoned. Heels clicking, perfume arriving before she did. She looked the woman up and down the way you look at a bug you're deciding whether to step on. "This isn't that kind of store," Tanya said. "Excuse me, we serve high-end clients." Tanya's smile was the cruelest kind, perfectly shaped. "You'd be more comfortable somewhere else." The room laughed, not loudly, just enough. Zoe felt something tighten in her chest. She set down the choker tray, walked across the floor, and touched the old woman's arm gently. "Can I get you some water?" The room went quiet in a different way now. The old woman looked at Zoe like she hadn't expected that. Like kindness was something she'd stopped anticipating. "That would be nice," she said. Zoe brought her water and found her a chair near the side wall. She sat with her, ignored the whispers, and smiled. "Take your time. There's no rush." The old woman's hand rested on top of Zoe's. Her skin was soft and dry and full of years. "Good things find good people," she said quietly. "Remember that." Zoe didn't know why those words hit her so hard. She just nodded. Then the old woman straightened in her chair and said something that changed everything. "I'd like to see 10 luxury sets. Your finest ones. Full sets. Necklace, earrings, bracelet, ring." Zoe blinked. 10? The best you have. She worked for 55 minutes. Matching stones. Checking settings. Pulling the velvet trays from the highest shelves. She moved carefully, intentionally, the way she always did when something mattered. The senior girls watched from a distance like spectators at a bad circus. "She's actually doing it," Brittany whispered. "Let her," someone else said. "It'll be funnier when it falls apart." Tanya stood with her arms crossed, wearing a small smile Zoe had learned to hate. When Zoe laid out the final selection, 10 complete sets, each one more stunning than the last, the old woman clasped her hands together. "I'll take all of them." The room tilted. Zoe exhaled. She could barely keep the smile off her face. "That comes to $240,000. Dead silence. Then laughter. "Oh my God," Brittany said, covering her mouth. The old woman patted her pockets, checked her coat, looked up with a gentle sigh. "I don't have my card on me, dear. My grandson has it. I'll need to reach him." The laughter came harder this time, not behind hands, out loud. Tanya walked forward slowly, like she was savoring every step. She stopped in front of Zoe, close enough that Zoe could smell her perfume. "You really thought she could afford this?" It wasn't a question. Zoe turned to the old woman. "It's okay, Grandma. Don't be embarrassed. The old woman looked at her with calm, clear eyes. I'm not embarrassed, dear. My grandson will come. I just need a moment. A moment. Tanya laughed. Honey, you don't have a grandson with $200,000. And even if you did, he wouldn't be picking you up from a jewelry store in those shoes. She waved at the door. Security can walk you out. The old woman stood slowly. No rush, no tears. She simply looked at Tanya for a long moment and then looked at Zoe. Zoe reached into her bag. Her last 20. The one she'd been carrying for emergencies. She pressed it into the old woman's hand. For a cab. Please. The old woman stared at the bill. Her fingers closed around it. When she looked up, her eyes were bright. You are a rare kind of person, Zoe. Tanya's voice cut through the moment like a blade. That's it. You brought a beggar into my store, wasted an hour of company time, and now you're giving away money like this is a charity. Get your things. You're fired. Zoe picked up her bag. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She walked out into the Atlanta afternoon and stood on the sidewalk, blinking in the sunlight, with no job, no plan, and an empty wallet. She didn't know what the old woman was doing behind her. But the old woman was smiling. The estate was 40 minutes outside the city. The cab driver had gone quiet when they pulled up to the gates. He kept glancing in the rearview mirror. Inside, everything was marble and light. Paintings that belonged in museums. A silence that money had bought and kept. Nate stood in the center of the living room when she walked in. 29 years old. CEO of Crest Holdings, one of the largest private equity groups in the Southeast. He'd been on 3 magazine covers in the past year. He looked at tall, focused, the kind of quiet that meant he was always thinking. Grandma. His voice shifted when he saw her face. Something careful left it. Where have you been? She told him. All of it. The store. The girls. Tanya. And Zoe, the one who brought her water, who sat with her, who gave away her last $20 without knowing who she was giving it to. By the time she finished, Nate's jaw was tight. Which store? Lux and Stone. He was already reaching for his phone. That's one of ours. His grandmother raised one finger. The girl first. The security footage ran for 6 minutes. Nate watched it twice without saying a word. Then he leaned back in his chair, eyes on the screen, and stayed still for a long moment. He'd reviewed thousands of hours of business footage. Analytics. Performance reviews. Boardroom recordings. He had never watched someone give away their last $20. Find her, he said. His assistant Darius hesitated. Sir. Today. Zoe was sitting on a bus bench, scrolling through job listings she couldn't afford to be picky about. When the black SUV pulled up, the window came down. A man in a fitted suit looked at her. Ms. Zoe. She stood up slowly. Who's asking? My name is Darius. I'm the personal assistant to Nathan Crest, CEO of Crest Holdings. A pause. The woman you helped this afternoon is his grandmother. He'd like to meet you. Zoe stared at him. The name. She knew it. Everyone in Atlanta knew it. Crest Holdings owned half the commercial real estate downtown, 3 hotel chains, and her stomach dropped, Lux and Stone. She had just been fired from a store owned by the grandmother's grandson. This had to be a trap. She got in anyway. The house did something to her. Not the size. Not the art. It was the stillness of it. The way the air inside felt different. Like nothing urgent had ever happened here. And then she saw him at the top of the stairs. She recognized him from the magazines. But photographs hadn't gotten it right. In person he had a weight to him, a gravitational thing, like every room he stood in had been waiting for him to arrive. Zoe. His voice was even. I'm Nate. I know who you are, she said, and then felt embarrassed for saying it. His grandmother appeared from a side hallway, arms open. You came. Something in Zoe loosened. You live here, Zoe said. I do. The old woman laughed, squeezing her hands. Not as poor as I looked, am I? Nate watched the two of them. He had a still face, hard to read, but something moved in it just for a second. His grandmother turned to him and said simply, She's the one. Zoe laughed nervously. That's not. We just met. She looked at Nate to laugh with her. He wasn't laughing. He was just looking at her. Calm, steady, serious. Her heart did something she hadn't given it permission to do. She stayed 3 days, then a week. She meant to leave, but his grandmother kept finding reasons to need her around. Then Nate offered her a job. Personal assistant. Crest Holdings headquarters. Competitive salary, full benefits, direct report to him. She said no. He asked why. Because I don't want to owe you anything, she said. And I don't want people thinking I got here because of who you are. He looked at her for a long moment. You'd be turning down the highest paying PA role in the company. I know. Another long pause. Okay, he said. Then earn it. Interview tomorrow. My HR team. No favors. She showed up at 8. She left at 11. She got the job. She didn't see Jade until her 3rd day at Crest. Jade arrived the way beautiful, dangerous women always arrive in stories like this. Perfectly dressed, loud heels, and radiating the specific energy of someone who has already decided to hate you. She was a senior director at the company. She had been attached to Nate's name in gossip columns for 2 years. She looked at Zoe the way Tanya had looked at the old woman in the store, and Zoe felt the recognition of it like a cold hand on her neck. And you are? Jade asked. Nate's new PA, Zoe said. Jade smiled. It didn't reach anything. How convenient. Started small. A whisper here. A rumor there. By the end of week 2, half the company had heard that Zoe had slept her way into the position. That she was a con artist. That she had targeted Nate's grandmother deliberately. Zoe kept her head down. She worked. She showed up early and left late. Nate heard the rumors by day 10. He called a company-wide meeting. He stood at the head of the conference table and let the room settle. Then he said quietly and clearly, Zoe has her position because she earned it in a process every one of you can verify with HR. She also happens to be the person who gave her last $20 to my grandmother when everyone else laughed at her. He paused. Anyone who has a problem with that should bring it to me directly. Otherwise, we're done with this conversation. Nobody spoke. Jade's face was stone. Zoe sat very still and felt, for the first time in years, like someone had put a wall between her and the world. This is where the story should have gotten easier. Didn't. Jade had one card left. She used it. She went to Nate's mother. Patricia Crest flew in from Charlotte 2 days later. She was everything you'd expect. Composed, aristocratic, and absolutely convinced that she could see through people in 30 seconds. She looked at Zoe and saw a threat. That evening, she appeared at Zoe's apartment door. She sat down across from Zoe. She placed a check on the table. $500,000. Leave, Patricia said. Not the job. Leave my son's life. Take this, start over somewhere else. I'll make sure no one interferes. Zoe looked at the check for a long time. Then she picked it up and tore it in two. I love your son, she said quietly. I didn't plan to, but I do. And I'm not going to take money to walk away from something real. Patricia stared at her. A long, measuring silence. Then she stood, smoothed her jacket, and left without another word. The frame-up came from Jade. A missing watch. $40,000. Found in Zoe's desk drawer by a cleaning crew. Conveniently, on a day when Jade was the last senior person in the building. The call came on a Friday afternoon. Security at her apartment door. Nate's assistant on the phone. Come in immediately. She walked into Crest Holdings' lobby and felt every eye. Patricia was there. Jade, arms crossed, expression arranged into careful concern. A representative from legal. We found the watch, Zoe, Jade said softly. I'm so sorry. Zoe felt the room tilt. She thought about every version of this moment she had already lived. The jewelry store. The campus jobs she'd worked to pay for school. Every place where someone had decided she was less than before she opened her mouth. She thought about walking out. Then Nate walked in. He didn't look at Jade. He didn't look at his mother. He looked at Zoe. I need everyone to give us the room, he said. He had the footage. He'd pulled it himself, the night before, when something hadn't felt right. Jade, 11:43 p.m. entering Zoe's office. Jade, 11:47 p.m., leaving. The watch entering a desk drawer in between. He showed it to the room 20 minutes later. All of them. His mother, legal, the senior staff. Jade's face went the color of paper. She tried. That's not. The angle doesn't show. Jade. Nate's voice was flat. Don't. Security walked her out. Patricia found Zoe sitting alone in the small garden behind the estate that evening. She sat down beside her without being invited. They were quiet for a while. I was wrong about you, Patricia said finally. I've been wrong before. It doesn't happen often, so I'm not good at it. A pause. I tore a woman down because I was scared of what she represented. I know what that looks like now. Zoe looked at her. My son loves you, Patricia said. That should have been enough for me from the start. He proposed on a Wednesday. No production. No crowd. Just the two of them on the rooftop of Crest headquarters at dusk. The city going gold below them. A small velvet box in his hand. You gave a stranger your last $20, he said. And then you turned down $500,000 to stay. I've never met anyone like you, Zoe. He opened the box. I don't want to spend the rest of my life without you in it. She said yes before he finished the sentence. 6 months later, Tanya found out the way everyone in Atlanta found out. The engagement announcement ran in 3 papers. Nate Crest, CEO of Crest Holdings, engaged to Zoe. The same Zoe. Tanya was at Lux and Stone when her phone lit up. She read the headline. Read it again. Set her phone face down on the counter. Picked it up. Read it again. Then she got a second notification. Crest Holdings had conducted an internal review of Lux and Stone management practices. Effective immediately, the store manager position was vacant. She had been fired by the man whose grandmother she'd thrown out. The store fell quiet. Everyone remembered what the old woman had said on her way out the door. Kindness is more valuable than expensive diamonds. They hadn't believed her. A year after the wedding, Zoe opened the Groundwork Center, a nonprofit that connected people in career transition with paid apprenticeships in skilled trades and business. On opening day, she stood at a podium in front of 300 people and said, I know what it feels like when a room decides you're nothing before you speak. I want this to be the place where that stops. In the front row sat Nate's grandmother, still in her worn headscarf, clapping harder than anyone. Beside her sat Patricia, who had become, quietly and genuinely, someone Zoe trusted. And beside Patricia sat Nate, watching his wife like she was the most important thing in any room she walked into. Because she was. The old woman had known it the moment Zoe pressed $20 into her hand. Some people show you who they are when they think nothing is watching. That's the only moment that counts.